Next, we have NFTs and sports ownership, how NFT tools are reviving fan engagement. This is a super exciting moment for exactly this topic. We are going to invite up onto the stage Bryan and Guillaume Moret-Bailly.
So, hello everybody. Thanks for being here with us. I think we see it? So just to introduce myself very quick, I'm Guillaume Moret-Bailly. I'm the co-founder of Dorsport. We are a Web3 agency specialized in sport, and we work in France and Europe with big clients in sports such as French Federation of Football, the French National Rugby League, and I've also accompanied the Ballon d'Or ceremony. Maybe some of you know it's the award that give like for the best player in the world, and we have accompanied this award to enter the NFT space. So that's a quick introduction, and we'll let maybe Robert introduce yourself as well.
Sure. My name's Bryan. I'm the founder of Karate Combat. We're the world's largest striking league, so the easiest way to explain it, if you're familiar with boxing, it's like boxing with kicks and throws and all of the fun things. And if you're familiar with UFC, where they fight in the cage, it's like the UFC, but without all the boring parts, you know, the wrestling, the grappling, things along those lines. And in just 4 years, we've become the largest league by far in the space. So I think what we're going to do, Guillaume is going to go through some of the ideas that he's done with his different clients, and then we were going to have myself kind of walk through our league, some of the things that we're doing in Web3, and then any advice he may have to offer or any kind of questions he wants to ask me, you know, while I'm kind of going through what we plan to do.
Yeah, perfect. And also the title here is also how NFT tools are reviving fan engagement. Actually, it's a question we try to answer every day with our clients and sport clients. And I would say like three key points to try to answer this question. The first one, I think, that is the fact that NFT tools create engagement, and it creates like a real link between the community and the sport actor. And for example, we work with a rugby club in France, and they have launched NFT ticket. And at each game, the audience can collect and claim the ticket. And at the end of the season, the one that has collect the most NFT ticket, they can claim utility with the player, with the club. And there is also a Discord group that allow the community to exchange directly with the club. And I think what's interesting in this Web3 evolution or revolution is the fact that the link between the sport organization and the community is closer. I think it's a closer link than what we have in Web2 traditional social media. So that's the first point. The second point, I think, is really the utility. I think the NFT tools really allow to innovate for sports player and allow to create amazing utility. For example, in the introduction I was talking about Ballon d'Or ceremony. So last year we allowed NFT holder to participate to the Ballon d'Or ceremony, and it was a first in the history because it's a very conservative and secret organization that gather with journalists and sports player to elect the best player of the year. And this year only it was able for normal fans, I would say, to collect an NFT and participate and engage in the ceremony, and engage as well on a specific Discord channel to understand better how it's done and how the best player of the year is elected. So that's the second point. And the third point, in my opinion, also what I'm really excited about in the Web3 revolution is that you can use NFT tools to project yourself and use the blockchain technology to live your fan engagement on the long run, on the long term. And for example, we are thinking with the French Federation of Football to create like NFTs that create your own fan heritage, so that you will be able to collect NFTs during all your fan career, I would say. And if we project at the end of your life, you will be able to have a wallet full of POAPs, full of NFT collectibles, and those wallets you will be able to hand it over to the next generation. So I think the goal here is really to project yourself in the long-term vision, and that's where the value really will be, in my opinion. So that's the answer I would like to try on this question, and maybe I will let you, Robert, talk about how you answer this every day with your league.
Okay, great. Yeah, and feel free to stop me if you have questions. What we're doing is pretty unique. So we start off with a traditional league. I'll give some background there just so you guys have context. So essentially what we did 5 years ago is we looked at the area of combat sports, and we thought that there was a large hole in the market. You had the UFC, that's the one where they fight in the cage. It's more about blood and guts, a very sort of tough, aggressive culture. They're the ones out there always saying they're going to kill each other's families, all of those things to grab headlines. And then we also saw the sport of karate had kind of been left behind. They were still doing point fighting, which is basically if you touch the person, you get a point. If you hurt the person or knock them out, you actually lose the match. So it's sort of the other extreme from the UFC. And we saw a good opportunity to create a new combat sport to fill the void and essentially become the most mainstream combat sport out there. So we started this journey about 5 years ago, and we had a unique opportunity because the league, karate has been around for hundreds of years. It's one of the oldest sports out there. And it's also huge. People think of it as a niche sport, but if you go to Omaha or Nebraska, you're going to see a pizza restaurant, you're going to see a karate dojo. It's actually huge. So for instance, 2.5 million people do MMA in the United States. Over 100 million people do Shotokan. That's just one type of karate worldwide. So we had this huge league to build the sport around. And even though we use the name of karate, karate is an excellent branding now. You know, it's the top TV show in the world, Cobra Kai. But any sort of strikers were allowed in. We wanted to be as inclusive as possible and really see sort of the best stand-up martial art. So when we took this brand, we were able to change a number of the rules going from point fighting to full contact. And we changed everything to create the most exciting sport and the most exciting content in the way the younger generation wants to view it. So for instance, in our sport, there isn't a cage or a ring. There's a flat, depressed surface where they fight called the pit that allows us to film all the footage with cinematic cameras, which gives it a totally different look and feel. The sport's more fast-paced. It lends itself better to highlights. The easiest way to see what we're doing is in pictures. We're on karate.com if you want to get an idea. The story is definitely best told with pictures and video. But essentially, we set up the league and the entire rule set to accomplish this goal of having, you know, a sport built for younger people and a more mainstream combat sport. Along the way, we added some other bells and whistles. For instance, the technology got strong enough with Unreal Engine where we could add a real virtual background that's rendered real time. So there we have a live audience there. We have real Olympic athletes fighting a real battle in the middle of the pit. And then behind it, we have LED screens that real-time render a virtual world that's rendered for the perspective each camera shooting into the LED. So if you see online, it looks like a photorealistic background. So that was the product we had. You know, we started, 4 years ago, we were on YouTube. In season 2, we got on BN Sports in 30 countries. And then the last 2 years, it's really taken off. So we're on the #1 sports channel in over 100 countries worldwide. We do over 2 million linear views per episode, 10 million digital. But where we really succeed is engagement. We're a top 30 sport on Facebook in the world, over 200 million video views per month. So things were going well from a traditional sports perspective. And then we did something crazy, all for fan engagement with crypto, and completely changed the way that we did things. So essentially the way it works now, there's this karate token that's going to come out May 10th. And we're going to essentially become the first crypto league. And what that means is the token just doesn't vote on what color the jerseys are going to be or some of these small things that have very limited value. The token's going to vote on everything. They're going to vote on who management is. They're going to have say in the fighters that we recruit. They're going to have say in the matchups. Once again, this is a combat sport, so we can't have the worst fighter fighting the best one, but we provide realistic options for the fans to choose from. So they will essentially have control and a vote on almost everything that the league does. Obviously, some of that will be delegated. So you've seen that happen before, never with the sports league, but you see it happen with teams. You know, that's some engagement, but we don't think that's the killer application. The reason we're doing all of this is something that we've invented. It's called up-only gaming. It's very simple, and the consumer doesn't have to have the faintest idea about what Web3 is to use it. So essentially what happens is, you know, we'll airdrop tokens to our fans, and they click a link to claim it, and it goes straight in a very, very simple app with a thin wallet. And it says, okay, you have 10,000 karate tokens. When a fight comes up, it pops up and it says, vote for your fighter or choose a group of fighters you think are going to win. If your fighters win, you get additional tokens. If your fighters lose, you don't lose anything. So you have incentives that are similar to some of the most tried and true models on the planet. Everything from DraftKings and, you know, a lot of what you see happening in sports. However, it's not regulated gambling because you can't lose anything. You're not staking anything. So we're sort of taking the gambling model that drives fan engagement that you see in a lot of other sports and turning it on its head. We're not taking anything from the fans. We're just giving them more value if they choose the right fighters. And we think it's been proven over and over and over again to work. So for instance, you know, my competitors, some of them in the United States are, you know, the guys that we call UFC knockouts, basically the same rule set with lower tier fighters such as the PFL. In order for them to get you to watch one of their fights, they need to give you 20 viral clips of that fighter doing something crazy. That's extremely costly, and it's very, very difficult to do, and there's a lot of people competing for those eyeballs. What we can do is we can literally, you know, airdrop a dentist, you know, 10,000 tokens. And even though, you know, it might not make financial sense for him to sit around and watch an event for 2 hours just to get whatever it is, 5,000 more tokens, all of the research in the world shows that having that bit of upside based on the event drives a level of fan engagement and fanaticism that's never seen anywhere else. They did a recent survey. 50% of fans under the age of 34 today are only interested in viewing a sport if they have a wager on it. So, you know, we're kind of offering, you know, that same engagement tool, but without any of the negatives of it, of essentially losing your money if you're wrong. So that's the engagement tool that we're doing. And the other thing that we're doing specifically to NFTs that's first of its kind is we're having a very permissive IP license. So rather than exclusively going with one NFT provider, we're essentially providing an open license. If you follow these basic rules, you get an extremely favorable financial split, more than you see from other projects. And we're sort of borrowing the L1 playbook. Get as many people to build on top of us so that we'll have the best Web3 builders, the best NFT projects, rather than the ones that, you know, are the most financial beneficial, or you know, the ones that are willing to, you know, offer us the most money. So that's sort of what we're doing for fan engagement. We're really excited about it. Our token launches May 10th, and then we're going to have a fight May 20th at Bitcoin Miami. So if any of you guys are there, talk to me after, and I'd love to see you guys at an event.
Oh, that's very interesting. Actually, for us that we work with clients like sports league like you. Actually, it's very interesting to see like how innovative you've been in the approach. Because we've been talking in France with French National Rugby League, and their approach were more conservative, I would say, and I think your approach is very, very innovative in the model as well as with the tool that is the NFT and the tokens. So that's really interesting. And maybe a question about that, like how the athletes react to this innovation? Like, are they happy about that? How do they react?
Well, it's actually been a very, very interesting process. Before the athletes, we had to get the whole sort of company on board, and I won't even go into that, but you can imagine getting traditional fight sports employees on with a new plan like this. But for the fighters, we actually just introduced them to what we're doing, and I should add an interesting component. So when you go and you vote for the fighter you think is going to win, there's a pool of tokens riding on each fighter. And once again, I can pick one fighter, or I can pick a group of fighters. We take the size of the pool and we give a percentage of that pool to the fighters. And the reason why that's so important is because in fight sports, it's very, very difficult to get the fighters to promote their fights. The guys you see, the Conor McGregors, Mike Tysons of the world, the Floyd Mayweathers, they do an incredible job. But for every one of them, there's thousands that just want to fight, sort of go home, and they might not even know the best ways to promote themselves. With us, they can see real time the pool of tokens that's voting for them. So as they do more to promote the fight, their upside increases with us. And we think it's an incredible way to align incentives with our athletes in a very equitable way. I think Web3 is the perfect tool that allows us to do that. So we told them about the plan recently, even though we've been working out for the past year and a half. And frankly, anything that offers people extra incentive, they're always happy with. So they're very excited about it. And believe it or not, our fighters are generally younger, so a lot of them understood, how it worked, and a lot of them were already familiar with Web3.
Yeah, that's very interesting to understand also the process behind, and that's great to see. And also you were talking about like the way you're filming the combat and the sports, and I think that's also interesting because we talk about NFT and NFT tools, but there is also like it's a lot of times linked with the metaverse. Do you have a reflection about this subject, like maybe to innovate in the way you promote and you film, and maybe in like immersive mode or something like this?
Yes, so we actually went down this path before the Web3 tools were even available to do the things that we're talking about now. So Web3 wasn't on the roadmap back then. But originally what we did was we wanted a sport that had the type of media the younger generation wants to see. When you look at even an NFL game, I mean, it looks like 90s boardroom graphics, right? Look at what else the younger generation is doing. They're playing Fortnite. Look at the look and feel of those brands versus what you see in traditional sports. I would argue traditional sports are pretty off market there, and they're catering to a lot of their older fan base. What we wanted to do was have a small format that wasn't stadium, but still give that excitement, that feel, and that intensity. And we found that if we created a virtual world behind the fans, you were able to achieve that. Rather than fighting in a remote location, the fans would say, "Oh, are those really the best fighters?" Once you put a virtual background up, they said, "Oh, this is awesome. Is this a real fight? Or is this blood sport?" And our engagement immediately went through the roof. So we actually had to set up a film company in Budapest in order to do this. No one had sort of done this sort of virtual technology with a live sport. So we spent 2 or 3 years doing that. We were using the cinematic technology. And now Unreal Engine has progressed enough where we can render it live using Unreal Engine. So we've actually built these worlds that our fights are in that could be repurposed for other things. We even thought, about having our virtual stadiums, selling them as NFTs and, having to rent them back when we use people's favorite stadiums, let some of the best artists out there create their own content that our community votes on to see where the fight should be hosted. So there's a lot to do there, and I think we've provided a great canvas. But to tell you the truth, part of the reason we love Web3 is that we're an open community, and we'd love to have the right partners come on board that are expert in those areas to really push that forward while we're focused on what we do best, which is the core sporting aspect of the league.
Yeah, and I think the model that you have, that the licensing model, is very interesting. So you can concentrate on what you do best, the sport part, and then you have multiple actors specialized in Web3 that can use your license to build great things around. And actually, the conviction here is also it's community centric, and so people will be able to vote, and will be able to have like a special communication channel for token holder to exchange between one another, and have talk about like maybe some new voting process.
So the way, so here's how we're breaking it up. It's essentially very similar to DeFi. So while what we're doing is new and these tools haven't been applied anywhere else, they're relatively simple Web3 tools. So for everything you just discussed, we're using, DeFi similar to what Yearn Finance does. I think they did a great job. I forget the name off my top of the head of the most popular forum that, they're sort of open source software that you can go to set it up, and it's very similar to DeFi or a lot of the things you guys are used to looking at. There's different criteria. Anyone can sort of propose something, for community voting, and there's a number of different thresholds that determine when it gets enacted. From a high level, what we're doing is a little bit different. And things do have to be delegated. So we have large groups of suppliers that the community votes on to handle certain larger areas. And then other things that are more fan-centric, and we think, a lot of people will be interested in that. A lot of fans will be interested that granularly. But the other type of voting that we're going to do, which is also going to go through the same process, but we're going to push it on our app as well, is things along the lines of, who's going to fight for the championship next, what fighters we're going to sign. And one of the reasons the UFC has been so successful is it gives the fans they give the fans what they want. A lot of times it's not the best person fighting for the title, but it's always what the fans want to see. And combat sports are perfect for that. So we think we have the right type of canvas for fans to become involved in voting in these types of issues, and we think we'll get very high fan engagement compared to what you see in other areas of Web3.
Yeah, that's really interesting because in my opinion, like what we were saying with a sports actor, I would say 1 year ago, it was the big name like Sora, NBA Top Shot. They were like the first one to really make, like I would say, this Web3 and sport a big thing. And now we see that other actors, all the sports actors, they want to take the step into Web3. But what's interesting now is like they don't just want, and your example is perfect for that. I think you don't just want to do like the same. You want to continue the innovation in order to really continue to create new engagement types and bring new utilities. And that's really what we see in our clients with the French Federation of Football. Like they were asking the question about like should I go with fan tokens, like with big providers such as Socios or big names such as Sora and everything. And they have tried that. They reflect, and actually the thing also, and you said it well. It's not only about gambling and finance. It's also about pure fan engagement, and how NFT can really offer a fan engagement experience. I think that's really the main thing, and the main thing that Web3 and NFTs can provide.
Yeah, and we actually have a funny, I think it's been proven that, sense of community is one of the best engagement tools out there. We actually have a funny story about that. In our Discord, we saw one of our super fans. He got a karate combat tattoo. The next event, you saw that guy front row, at ringside. We found him and we flew him out. So we have a we have a picture where it's him beforehand and then him after joining the community, and he's pit side. So I think all of those things are really important, and it's great to see the fans that are so involved, get what they want, get interaction with fighters and with the community. And the other thing is we don't have a ton of time left. I'm happy to take questions. We can both take questions if anyone's interested. I think we have a question over there. What? Okay. Sure, there in the bottom, in the blue shirt. So the question was, which is a great question. What's the value of the token, rather than just winning more tokens? How can they use it? So there's a number of different ways. So when you look at fan tokens, I would say that they have very limited control. You can pick what color of the jersey that the people are going to wear, things along those lines. With us, the fans essentially control everything. So I think there's a lot of examples out there in sports where people really want to have control. You know, a lot of people, a lot of people out there buying sports teams. You know, they're buying it so they can sit front row. You know, the ultimate billionaire flex move is buying a sports team. You know, obviously this is not that. It's something very different. But at the same time, it provides a lot of utility. So everything from, you know, VIP seating at the events to our gear to, you know, having input in all of these decisions about how the league is run, you know, all of that, which is extremely important to our fans, the token allows you to do all of those things. So, you know, we think that they'll really appreciate, you know, the utility, the value that the token has to offer in that area. Yes, anything that essentially that fans want from a league, you know, they can get access to with the token. You know, whether it's being, you know, seeing under the hood our recruiting process, you know, having a say in the recruiting process, the same thing with the matchmaking, all of those different things that's really important to fans to have input in, they can have. And you've already seen the success of these fan tokens where you give fans limited to almost no input in the success they've had. We're going the other direction and giving them, you know, tons of input, you know, tons of say in absolutely everything we do and complete involvement in the process. So, you know, we think that they'll be highly interested in that. It depends on the different area, but yes, it's based on number of tokens. Sure, over there. Yeah, so I guess the question was, you know, for traditional leagues, you know, do you see more value going to the athletes or something that the league is sort of pushing? Was that sort of the gist of it? Um, yeah, I think, you know, I think both of those are key. Um, I think the way that leagues are set up, it's very hard to move forward with a lot of this. Um, you know, the NFL is a collection of a large number of billionaires that all have very, very, very different views on that. So, you know, I think unfortunately there's a lot of structural issues in traditional sports that prevent them from taking advantage of a lot of this. So certainly it would make it near impossible for them to go down the road we're going down, which we think is a key to the future. So because of that, I think it's kind of up to the athletes. You know, a lot of these engagement tools that are useful, it's not written into the traditional contracts with the league. It's up to the athletes. So the athletes do have a lot of control, and I think those would be the key going down more engaging experiences on the Web3 front.
Actually, I have like a little different opinion about that because we actually in Europe we work with leagues and big French soccer and rugby league, and when we take the subject from like the going full Web3 NFTs etc., like it's difficult because people maybe don't understand what we're talking about and everything, but when we take the subject as a tool really to enhance fan engagement, create like maybe new kind of membership for fans, etc. They start to understand that it can be, it's not just like you need to go like full Web3 and forget what you were doing before. You're using Web3 as a tool, and when we have this pitch, the federation, the leagues, they understand more and they are willing to move ahead. But athlete as well, like everyone. But we need to find the right angle at each time. So I don't know if one more question.
Yeah, we agree, and we think it's very important for it to be decentralized. And as a result, the Karate Combat team will have will not have a majority of the tokens whatsoever. And I think that's absolutely key. And I think that with a lot of these other tools out there across all of Web3, you have this token, and then you have separate equity that's accruing all of the real value. We think it's important not to have that model. We have a white paper up. You can see exactly how we structured it. We're 100% transparent with everything, which I think is unique in Web3. And I agree with you 100%. Wouldn't make much sense if we had over a majority. It would sort of be a big joke.
Yeah, and also it's interesting to see, like with some fan tokens, it's actually not the real fans that own those tokens, because for example in soccer, majority of fans were like in Turkey for like PSG that is in France, and they are not really fans. They're just here for gambling and like the crypto finance of the fan token, but not for the utility. And what you're doing is great in that way. It's based on the utility.
All right, I think we're there on time, correct? All right, well, thank you everyone for your time. It
Thank
was
you
a
very
pleasure
much.
to speak here. Then thanks to the conference. Huh?